Chapter 588 Learning, Inscriptions. Bailey Hongzhuang carefully looked at the old man in front of her. She had always felt that there was something wrong with this situation. The chaos ring had existed for countless years, and this stone room had been closed. Did this old man not need any basic living necessities? There was no food in this stone room, no bed, no living supplies. Unless, this old man was not a real person at all. When this idea emerged in her mind, she became more and more aware that her guess was most likely correct. Otherwise, if a person had been locked in this stone room, wasn't that crazy? Thinking of this, Bailey Hongzhuang went straight to the old man and waved her hands in front of the old man. The old man did not react at all. "Master, what's the matter?" Xiao Hei's eyes sparkled with doubts. "Is it that this old man is not real, just an illusion?" Xiao Hei asked after a brief pause of surprise. Previously, the old man had appeared quite suddenly and it was too shocking. Now pondering on it, they understood. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, yes. So, the existence of this old man. Is it for Master to learn inscriptions? Xiao Bai's eyes shone brightly. The old man had suddenly appeared here, and this could be the only reason. As soon as this was said, Xiao Hei and Bailey Hongzhuang looked at each other. They both thought so too. After all, in exception to this possibility, they could no longer think of any other reason. Haha, inscriptions are a very great skill. Congratulations to Master. Xiao Hei said excitedly. Bailey Hongzhuang gazed deeply at the step-by-step and precise teachings of the old man, and a hint of excitement also appeared in her eyes. If she could learn inscriptions, then it would be of great help to her. This chaos ring is really amazing. It was difficult to hide the lamentation on her beautiful and exquisite face. So far, the chaos ring had not revealed all of its treasures, but each thing up to now had made her marvel. Even just inscription, she couldn't even imagine how many people wanted to learn inscriptions, but there was no one to teach. Inscription was much more complicated than alchemy. The reason why she did not learn inscriptions in her previous life was that her energy was limited. If she had learned the two together, she may not be proficient in either, so she had learned alchemy. In this world, her alchemy was already outstanding and she had its understanding, and she also had the energy to learn inscriptions. It was a godsend. When Bailey Hongzhuang came to the side of the old man, nothing happened. However, when Bailey Hongzhuang approached the table, a new table appeared immediately, exactly same as the table in front of the old man. Obviously, this table had been prepared for her. At the same time, the old man stopped his previous movement and began to tell the characteristics and functions of inscriptions to Bailey Hongzhuang. He was actually teaching it to her. Bailey Hongzhuang's bright eyes only became brighter and brighter. With such an inscription master as her teacher, it would definitely be easier for her to learn inscriptions than others. In the following days, Bailey Hongzhuang cultivated and improved in the cultivation tower while learning inscriptions in the chaos ring. Her days were filled, and her growth was very obvious. However, inscription was obviously not something one could do half-heartedly and without experience. Even if it was Bailey Hongzhuang, it would take time and patience to learn everything from scratch. Chapter 589 Breakthrough. Baisher. Because of her dedication to cultivation and to studying inscription, there was no time for Bailey Hongzhuang to take on any new tasks. Fortunately, she had received a lot of points from the hands of Wei Mei Dai and the others. It was enough for Bailey Hongzhuang to squander it for a while. Bewitching found that Bailey Hongzhuang had become extremely busy after returning, and almost no one could ever see Bailey Hongzhuang. When he thinks about it, he only thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was cultivating so persistently was perhaps because of the pressure from the 4 cultivation family's cultivators. Not only Bailey Hongzhuang, even Gong Shaoqing, and the others were working very hard. On this day, Bailey Hongzhuang did not go to cultivate but stayed in her room. Not for others, only because Baisher would successfully break through today. The time that Baisher has been in closed-door cultivation this time is really long. I wonder what level he can break through to. Xiao Hei's eyes sparkled with curiosity. After all, Baisher was the Beastmaster. Baisher had only been born for a short while, and his time of cultivation was also very short. However, his efforts compared to his cultivation level were negligible. This guy was a very anomalous beast. All he had to do was swallow demonic beast cores to enhance his strength. He believed that Baishar would have a good promotion in his strength through this breakthrough. He should be able to break through to the innate realm. Previously also this guy had been very proud. Xiao Bai guessed. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang's was also silent, her heart bitter. She had to work so hard to cultivate. If she had not gotten the many Yuan Li Gua in the ancient monument, she was afraid that she would still be unsure of how long it would take to break through to the innate realm. Now, Baishar just had to cultivate by eating demonic beast cores. Now, with this breakthrough, he would break through to the innate realm. Wasn't this gap too big? The master was not comparable to the contractual beast, saying this was also not wrong. Having said that, Bailey Hongzhuang showed a happy smile. Why would she be unwilling for Baishar's, her own contractual beast's, breakthrough? Previously, Baishar's strength was also not enough, but he had only been born for a short period. Now, he could shock people. After all, in the past, Gong Shaoqing and the others regarded Baishar as a contractual beast with only an ornamental effect. If a beastmaster were to be recognized as such, naturally it would be unwilling. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang, Xiao He, and Xiao Bai were thinking these, a powerful aura came from the palace in the Chaos Ring. Baishar, who had been in closed-door cultivation for a long time, suddenly opened his eyes, the pair of eyes sparkling with brilliance. And as Baishar woke up, that aura dissipated. Seeing that Baishar had awakened, the faces of Bailey Hongzhuang and the two fluffy beasts also showed a touch of joy, and Baishar appeared in the room in the next moment. Master! When Baishar saw Bailey Hongzhuang, he directly jumped into the latter's arms. He was used to being in his master's arms. Looking at Baishar's actions, Xiao He and Xiao Bai glanced at each other. This guy was still the most favorite of master. Bailey Hongzhuang touched Baishar's head, the white hair felt very soft and she smiled. Baishar, you had a breakthrough this time. Baishar nodded, and broke through to the innate realm. Listening to these words, Bailey Hongzhuang's smile was bright. It seems that Xiao Bai and Xiao He's speculation was really correct. Baishar had actually broken through to the innate realm directly. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang was ready to continue speaking, suddenly a knock on the door rang out. Bailey Hongzhuang, holding Baishar, went to open the door. When she opened the door, she saw the signature charming and evil smile of Bewitching. Chapter 595 Level Hong Border, Baishar. Wifey, I haven't seen you for these few days, did you also miss your hubby? Bailey Hongzhuang was stunned at Bewitching's shameless words. This guy's slickness was really getting better. Too busy, didn't think about you. Bailey Hongzhuang said, and took 2 steps back, letting Bewitching enter the room, and Bewitching closed the door behind him. Wifey really made me worry, and she is busy being in closed-door cultivation all day. I see you are working very hard. I am also trying to improve my strength as soon as possible. Bailey Hongzhuang blinked. During this time she had put all her energy into learning inscription and improving her cultivation. There were not many opportunities for her to meet with Bewitching. However, a part of her reason for this was also because of their relationship. She believed that Han Xiling was not someone who just put on an arrogant air. The previous things must have made Han Xiling very angry. Even if she had returned to Tiangang Zone, she would not give up on trying to make trouble for her. Due to this, she must also improve her strength as soon as possible. Only in this way, in the future, when facing the people sent by Han Xiling, she could stand bold and firm. Seeing the tenacity of Bailey Hongzhuang, with her expression with a little bit of seriousness and apology, Bewitching smiled and said, I am just joking, wifey does not have to take it seriously. The next moment Bewitching's eyes couldn't help but fall on Baishar, who was still being held by Bailey Hongzhuang. During this time, he had not seen Baishar appear. Now that Baishar had appeared, he had already succeeded in breaking through. Baishar's strength broke through to this level. Bewitching's lips curved a bit more, and there was a bit of unconcealable happiness in his bright eyes. Baishir is the beast master, so presumably each breakthrough would have no small progress in his strength. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, and there was a bit of pride and joy in her smile. Baishir has broken through to the innate realm, this progress is much faster than mine. Hearing those words, Di Bei-chin gazed at Baishir, and in the deep and bright starry eyes flashed some thoughtfulness, as he said, Baishir should have broken through to the 5th level of Hong border. This progress is indeed great. Baishir's eyes widened, he had still been thinking of selling Meng, he didn't expect Di Bei-chen to see through him. Bailey Hongzhuang also paused. She only thought that Baishir progressed faster than her. She hadn't expected Baishir to reach the 5th level of Hong border. This progress was too much against the norm. Baishir, you broke through to the 5th level of Hong border? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Although he had not said anything, he had directly been seen through by Di Bei-chen, and so Baishir very proudly nodded. He too was very satisfied with his own progress. Seeing that Baishir admitted, the smile in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes also deepened a bit. Haha, Baishir, you are really amazing. She had noticed that she could not see through Baishir's level. It was because Baishir's strength was a lot higher than hers, so she could not see through it. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's praise, Baishir seemed to be excited and shyly dropped his head in front of Bailey Hongzhuang, extremely cute. However, when this scene was in front of Di Bei-chen, this was not the case. All along, Baishir had been a demonic beast who was extremely helpful to Bailey Hongzhuang, but he did not expect that this guy would be a pervert. This was going on, but where was he touching? That was a place that even he hadn't touched. And this little guy had touched it first. No! This was absolutely not good. Thinking of this, Di Bei-chen directly reached out and took Baishir out from Bailey Hongzhuang's hands. Chapter 591 Return to Feng Bo country. Suddenly picked up by Di Bei-chen, Baishir couldn't help but struggle before extending his 4 small claws, his eyes full of hope as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Looking at Di Bei-chen's actions, an expression of confusion appeared in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, as she said, Di Bei-chen, what are you doing? Di Bei-chen's enchanting face had a charming smile, as he held Baishir securely in his own arms. I just think that this little guy is very cute, so holding it for a hug. Oh. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded, Baishir's furry little body really was cute. Even if she had been with Baishir for quite some time, she had never felt that Baishir was not cute. Di Bei-chen held Baishir in his arms, and his big hands touched Baishir's fur. He felt that although this was the Beast Master, the fur was exceptionally supple and shiny. Baishir's 4 limbs were constantly struggling, he didn't like being held by an adult man. However, even though Baishir struggled, Di Bei-chen always held him with a smile as he said, this little guy really recognizes his master, he is unwilling even if I hold him. Master! Baishir cried out silently. Although his expression was wronged, Bailey Hongzhuang did not notice the mourning in his heart at all. Di Bei-chen sat down beside Bailey Hongzhuang and said, Hongzhuang, after a few days, the college will have holidays, we should return to Feng Bo country, how? Her black and white phoenix eyes held a color of strangeness. Bailey Hongzhuang asked out loud, do you still have a need to return to Feng Bo? Di Bei-chen nodded, but then shook his head, his black and bright, starry eyes shimmering with a playful expression. I have eaten many losses in Feng Bo for at least 3 years, going now and visiting is also a good choice. Di Bei-chen then gazed at Bailey Hongzhuang. Do you not want to go back and see? Bailey Hongzhuang clearly understood in her mind that whether it was her or Di Bei-chen, their past life in Feng Bo was unbearable. They had finally left that place, and there would be a good show if they went back. You are right, we really should go back. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved up in an enchanting smile. She was sure that after going back this time, there would be no need to return to Feng Bo in the future. For the Feng Bo country or for the general's house that she had lived in for 15 years, she had no enthusiastic feelings. The previous Bailey Hongzhuang was dead, and the people who had bullied Bailey Hongzhuang had already been punished, she had no more feeling in her heart. Xiao He and Xiao Bai's hearts also felt quite calm after hearing that they were returning to Feng Bo. In the beginning, everyone had laughed at their master and Di Bei Chen, who had been crippled at the time, saying they were a natural pair. Now, they didn't know how they would react to seeing their master and Di Bei Chen. After 7 days, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Bei Chen stood at the entrance of Tsanglan College, and Xia Zhiqing and others stood by them. "We have a month of vacation, we will see you again in a month." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. The college will have vacations in winter, and many students would take this opportunity to go back to visit their loved ones. "Okay, see you in a month." All the others nodded. They would return to the college soon, within a month. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Bei Chen set off for Fengbo, Xiao Zifan also saw them and couldn't help but walk to their side. "Ah, Wang Ya, Wang Fei, you are also going to return to Fengbo?" Xiao Zifan asked with a smile. Chapter 592 Cheeky, Di Bei Chen seeing Xiao Zifan again, Bailey Hongzhuang's face also showed a touch of joy. Since she had come to the college, she had been busy with cultivating and other things, so she had rarely seen Xiao Zifan. "Yeah, these vacations we have nowhere to go, so it is better to go back." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. "You are also going back? Then, why don't we go together?" Hearing this, Xiao Zifan glanced at Di Bei Chen and smiled. "I will not disturb you, I just saw you coming here and wanted to greet you." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. In fact, if Xiao Zifan were to really going back with them, she was afraid that Xiao Zifan would feel very embarrassed. Not far away, Xian Yuanhuan's gaze also fell onto Di Bei Chen and Bailey Hongzhuang. In Fengbo's imperial city, he had been like a star in the sky, but since he came to this college, he had lost his former glory. Instead, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Bei Chen had become the focus of attention. Since he had seen Di Bei Chen healed and also become a special enrollment student, he had been very jealous of him. In any case, he must not offend Di Bei Chen. Seeing that appearance that would stand out even in a crowd of 10,000, it had already proved that Di Bei Chen's background was extraordinary. He really didn't understand why the previous Di Bei Chen let them treat him like mud all the time, but now he had become an existence far above him. In this regard, his father had not clearly told him the reason. So he hoped that he could understand everything when he returned this time. For Bailey Hongzhuang, Xian Yuanhuan's gaze was a bit more regretful. Previously, Bailey Hongzhuang had been his fiancée. He hadn't expected that she would now become a perfect pair with Di Bei Chen. Nowadays, with the improvement in Bailey Hongzhuang's strength, he felt that Bailey Hongzhuang's charm was getting harder to stop. Even if he was dreaming, he understood that there was no possibility between him and Bailey Hongzhuang. In a sentence, this was also the thing he regretted most in his life. Feeling the burning gaze behind her, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but turn around and look behind. After seeing Xian Yuanhuan, there was a hint of indifference in her phoenix eyes. "Wifey, let's go." Di Bei Chen was already sitting on his horse as he reached out. He smiled, looking at Bailey Hongzhuang. The sun shone golden behind him, and a layer of sunlight framed Di Bei Chen's body. The beautiful face and temperament became even more extraordinary in front of Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. However, the next second, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but frown. "What about my horse?" They had clearly bought 2 horses. Why was there only one left now? She thought about all the things that had happened. How did the horse disappear? Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's question, the smile on Di Bei Chen's lips curved up slightly. "Wifey, I saw that Xiao Zifan was alone, even his horse had not been readied, so I gave your horse to him. Anyway, we are only 2 people, we can even ride together. What do you think?" Bailey Hongzhuang turned around, and true to his word, Xiao Zifan, who was not far away, was holding her horse. Turning her head, Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes narrowed as she stared at the smiling Di Bei Chen sitting over the horse. This guy's face was getting thicker and thicker. "It's not very comfortable for us to ride a horse together. I will go buy a horse again." However, when Bailey Hongzhuang turned and was ready to buy a horse, Di Bei Chen directly pulled her hand, as he held Bailey Hongzhuang directly in front of him. Unable to free herself from Di Bei Chen's hold, Bailey Hongzhuang became a bit angry. Di Bei Chen, you. Chapter 593 Why haven't I seen Heimu? Di Bei Chen's hands wrapped around Bailey Hongzhuang's waist, and his lips were close to her ears, as he said, Wifey, the students of the college are all going home today to meet their families. There are not enough horses for them all. If you were to buy another one, what will others do? The warmth of his breath tickled Bailey Hongzhuang's ears, and a different kind of sensation rose in her body. This awkward contact immediately made Bailey Hongzhuang's cheeks flush red. Di Bei Chen looked at the reddish earlobe of Bailey Hongzhuang, and the smile in his eyes gradually deepened. Although his wife was not afraid of anything usually, in this kind of situation she became shy and rigid. Di Bei Chen. Let go. Unable to stand the ambiguous atmosphere, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but say this. This guy was a shameless rogue. He had caught her in a moment of weakness. It was really abominable. Wifey said that, but unfortunately, your husband can't agree. Di Bei Chen's hands were around her, holding Bailey Hongzhuang, and with his big hands holding the reins, he drove straight forward. Ta-ta-ta. The sound of horseshoes sounded, and Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Bei Chen gradually increased their speed to become one with the wind, but they were in a calm state of mind, and they were not in a hurry. Along the way, Di Bei Chen and Bailey Hongzhuang admired the surrounding scenery. Both of them put all their efforts on cultivating during normal days. There were a few times when they would be as idle as now. Therefore, both of them were enjoying the journey. Di Bei Chen, you haven't gone back to Tiangang Zone since then? Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but ask. It had been a long time since Di Bei Chen came to Tsanglan College, and even though Di Bei Chen had already stabilized his position, but he had not stayed in the sect for such a long time, she was afraid that the changes there would not be small. Di Bei Chen's expression changed a little. Would wifey like to accompany me next time? Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. I'm just worried that it will have an impact on you since you've been out here for so long. Even if Di Bei Chen's master was the sovereign of Tiangang Zone and Di Bei Chen himself was the young lord of Tiangang Zone, now that the sovereign had left the sect for so long, and Di Bei Chen had also not stayed in the sect for years, the matters in the sect had been handed over to the several elders to deal with. In the long run, this was not good. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Bei Chen was happy, as he said, Heimu has always informed me about the things in the sect. I am not there, but I also understand the situation of the sect. Unless there are some very important matters that I must go back for, there is nothing to worry about at other times. Wifey doesn't need to worry. So, that's how it is. Bailey Hongzhuang said lightly. There was Heimu around Di Bei Chen who was always dedicatedly doing things for him. He had saved him a lot of trouble. Why haven't I seen Heimu recently? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows in confusion, thinking of when she first met Di Bei Chen. Heimu had always stayed by Di Bei Chen's side. Obviously, Heimu should always be nearby Di Bei Chen, but she didn't know why. Ever since Di Bei Chen came to the college, she had only seen Heimu once. Di Bei Chen's expression changed a bit, and there was something a little bit unnatural about it. I recently sent Heimu to do some things. Bailey Hongzhuang looked suspiciously in Di Bei Chen's eyes. She kept feeling that there was something wrong with Di Bei Chen this time, but she couldn't put a finger on what was wrong, so she could only let it go. Chapter 594 Call me husband, wifey. Di Bei Chen called out softly. Well? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows rose. What's wrong? Wifey, you see that I have called you wife for so long, but you haven't ever called me husband. Why don't you call me by it? In Di Bei Chen's eyes, the light of anticipation shone. Before, when Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was not on him at all, this was naturally impossible. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang was also in love with him, he had been waiting for those words for a long time. Bailey Hongzhuang felt awkward. Di Bei Chen's sudden request was beyond her expectations. When she thought of the word husband, she could not say it out loud. No. Bailey Hongzhuang said. Wifey, you only need to call out to me. How? Di Bei Chen's smirking face had a playful smile. Just once? No. Wifey, this thing makes husband very sad. There are no other people nearby, don't be shy. Di Bei Chen's eyebrows were furrowed, and he deliberately looked at her with a sad expression, his eyes looking at Bailey Hongzhuang with anticipation. Bailey Hongzhuang was stunned at Di Bei Chen's expression, which was selling Meng, and in her heart she was helpless. In fact, with Di Bei Chen's handsome face persuading her, it was hard for her to either yield or refuse. However, to say something like this, Bailey Hongzhuang was also unable. Seeing the expression of Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Bei Chen's eyebrows rose. His wife's reaction was not unexpected to him. After all, with how shy his wife is, it was impossible for her to say this. Thinking of this, Di Bei Chen continued, "Wifey, you always call me Di Bei Chen, it is a bit too distant. According to my opinion, how about you remove my family name when addressing me?" Listening to his words, Bailey Hongzhuang thought for a moment. She had always called him Di Bei Chen, which indeed did not fit their relationship. And, seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang promised, Di Bei Chen's heart was happy for a while. "Wifey, do you promise this?" Bailey Hongzhuang nodded, looking at Di Bei Chen's excitement for this. Her heart also felt it was very funny. The young lord of the Tiangang zone was so happy for such a small thing. If it were to spread, she didn't know how many people would joke about this. "Wifey, in that case, why don't you call me first?" Bailey Hongzhuang looked into Di Bei Chen's eyes, stunned. "Call you the next time. Please." 1. Bei Chen. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's ethereal and gentle voice, Di Bei Chen's eyes were bright, and on his handsome face instantly appeared an expression of deep delight. "Wifey, why don't you call me again?" Bailey Hongzhuang turned to look straight forward. She had no plans to take care of this guy. Di Bei Chen smiled and looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's back, feeling that it was especially fun to tease his own wife. In the past, he never understood why those lovers were so happy when they were together. That is, until now, when he finally understood. Looking at the slender and graceful white figure in front of him, Di Bei Chen's eyes were filled with a touch of gentleness. Today, he had other wishes. He only hoped to be able to grow old with Bailey Hongzhuang. With the two people not rushing, the journey that would usually take only 7 days, but the two of them took more than 10 days. However, the two did not feel that this road was long, but in fact, felt that the time had passed by very fast. This was the most relaxed period of time between the two. Finally, at the noon on this day, the two arrived at Fengbo country's imperial city. Chapter 595 Arrived at the Imperial City. Imperial City, Fengbo country. The long street stretched for miles, crowded with people, endless pedestrians, and the sounds of shops selling. As soon as the two entered through the city gate, the overwhelming hustle and bustle were heard by the two people. Everywhere in the Imperial City highlighted the prosperity of Fengbo. Looking at this familiar scene in front of her, Bailey Hongzhuang's heart was full of emotions. For this place, she did not have many good memories, but there was also the sadness in her heart from the former Bailey Hongzhuang. The only memory worthy of her happiness was that here she met Di Bei Chen. Di Bei Chen noticed the slightly complicated expression on Bailey Hongzhuang. He also understood the underlying meaning of her expression. "Wifey, I will be by your side in the future." Di Bei Chen looked at her, his voice revealing seriousness and firmness. In the past, Bailey Hongzhuang had been unhappy, but in the future, he will make Bailey Hongzhuang happy. Listening to the consolation in Di Bei Chen's words, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved upwards, her face bright and charming like a bright moon, the previous windy and cloudy expression disappearing. "I know." Her faint and gentle voice held trust in Di Bei Chen, and her extremely beautiful face was flowing with confidence. In the past, she did not think of these two seriously. Although her memories were clear, after all, she was not the one who experienced it. What's more, those people had already disappeared completely from in front of her and would never appear again in the future again. She just felt that there seemed to be no big connection between Fengbo and her. Originally, the general's house had an inseparable relationship with her, but after knowing the truth about her life's experience, this thin connection had completely disappeared. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang, Di Beichen held Bailey Hongzhuang's hands and smiled and said, "Let's go back to the prince's mansion, we haven't come back here for a while." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, "Well, I want to go back and see." The two speeded up and rushed towards the Qin Palace, where they still had some memories of. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen walked together in the streets of the imperial city, the gazes of the people fell on them either strange or odd. Many people had seen their appearance and stretched their necks to look at the perfect couple that had appeared suddenly. In front of their eyes, a man and woman stood side by side. The man was wearing pale gold robes, and silver bamboo were embroidered along the line of the robes. Under the sunlight, they reflected a little. His body was tall and straight, and his appearance handsome, extremely handsome. His perfect and impeccable face had a doting smile, his aura bright and wise. His one look could penetrate one's heart. In particular, the enchanting smile that was slightly evil made the surrounding woman sigh after getting a glimpse. The woman was dressed in a white gauze skirt, like a willow, her body was thin and wonderful, graceful. Especially that face, which could even fell cities. Different from the gentles of ordinary woman, this woman's eyebrows showed her tenacity and will, which with her perfect and moving face added a touch of uniqueness, making her unforgettable. Walking alongside each other, they were like a golden boy and girl, a perfect match. Like a beautiful scenery, they attracted everyone's attention. Everyone was wondering where these wonderful people came from, they were so good. They had lived here for most of their lives and had never seen such a match. Chapter 596 Only want wifey to see it. Isn't that Qin Wanye and Wang Fei? A merchant said after looking carefully at Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. He had only seen the Wanye and Wang Fei one time. It was only because the appearance of the two was really unforgettable that he recognized them. But he was not so sure now. Because wasn't Wanye a cripple? The man in front of him was clearly walking, how could he be Qin Wanye? With the voice of the merchant falling, everyone else was also stunned. Now they only thought that the two were very familiar, but they had never thought that it was the Wanye and Wang Fei. Because appearance can be similar, but it was impossible for Wanye to stand up with his disability. Yes. It is the Qin Wanye and Wang Fei. I haven't seen them for a while. Wang Fei seems to be more beautiful. The Wanye is also getting more and more handsome, but how can Wanye suddenly stand up? The proprietress of a shop was stunned and her eyes followed them. It was too unbelievable to see these two people. As the proprietress said, Bailey Hongzhuang really had become more beautiful. After her growth in this period, and her study in the art of Go, calligraphy and the zither, her temperament had become more graceful. Just looking at her gave others an indescribable feeling of dignity and charm. My God, the Wanye and Wang Fei are really a too-perfect match. Who dares to say that they are jokes? I say that those people don't have eyes. The people of Imperial City were all completely shocked. The previous Qin Wanye gave them a very sorrowful feeling. If it was not that the Wanye could not stand up, then the Wanye would have been the deserved first beautiful man in the Imperial City. At this point, how many women had sighed? And now, the Qin Wanye had actually stood up. This temperament, this style, even the Crown Prince Xian Yuan Huan could not be compared with him. Some of the people who had come to the Imperial City from the outside, after listening to the discussions of the crowd, their faces showed a curious expression. Why are you looking at them so strangely? You don't know who they are? After the proprietress heard those words, she once again spoke up. Everyone knows that in the beginning, the Wanye was a disabled person who could not even stand up. Everyone knows that he was a waste. Listening to the proprietress's narrative, some people who were not aware of the two also showed amazement. No one ever thought that these two people, who were originally laughed at by everyone, would turn out to be so excellent. There was no one who could associate them with their previous looks. Oh my God, the Wanye is so handsome. I just want him to stand so I can admire him. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were walking along the road, and many women on both sides of the street were stunned after seeing Bewitching. The street seemed to change to spring for Bewitching. In the past, they felt that Bewitching was a crippled person who could not stand up. Although he was extremely beautiful, they did not dare to be with him. Today, Bewitching had stood up. He was undoubtedly the ideal person in their minds. Now, if they didn't grasp the opportunity, should they wait for an auspicious time? Bewitching, it seems that your charm is not small. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips slightly curved, her face had a teasing expression. Bewitching's smile widened slightly, and he leaned his head close to Bailey Hongzhuang. For husband's charm, I only want wifey to see it. His actions and audible words directly shattered the fragile heart of the surrounding women. Their faces showed disappointment. Chapter 597 You are mine, only mine. Bewitching's eyes swept over the around them. The next moment, under everyone's curious gazes, he directly held Bailey Hongzhuang's hands and lessened the distance between the two of them. As if telling others to back off, telling the intimate relationship between the two to the people around. Although Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang were already a couple, such a bold move still made many of the people present show a look of discomposure. In this age with conservative people, this kind of action was really rare. However, after some young lovers saw Bewitching's actions, their faces also showed their envy. I heard that the relationship between Chen Wangye and Wang Fei was very good. I see them now and I realized how good their feelings are. Yeah, it is too enviable. I wonder if I can find a person in this life, a person who can resonate with my heart. Bailey Hongzhuang was also shocked by Bewitching's actions. In the beginning, she wanted to shake off Bewitching's hand, but after thinking about it, she felt that it was unnecessary. She understood the feeling Bewitching had for her and also understood her own heart. Since they had already decided to be together, then there was no need to fear the gazes of others, because they were a pair. Bailey Hongzhuang had always been straightforward, and since she had decided to be together with Bewitching, there was no need to cover it up. So, everyone could know clearly that they were together. Feeling Bailey Hongzhuang also hold his hand, the smile on Bewitching's lips widened slightly, and the pair of ink-like black eyes shone with unprecedented brightness. Bewitching sped up, and holding Bailey Hongzhuang's hand, they hurried back to the Qin Palace. At the same time, the news that Chen Wangye had stood up also spread quickly throughout the imperial city. 1 told 10, 10 told 100, and in a short period of time, all the people of the imperial city had already known the news. Back at the Qin Palace, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but wonder out loud, Bewitching, why did you suddenly start walking so fast? Bewitching's expression was slightly awkward, and there was a bit of dissatisfaction in his expression. You didn't notice, but all those men had been looking at you with those eyes, I couldn't stand it. That moment, he only felt all the men's eyes focused on Bailey Hongzhuang, the covetous and fanciful eyes made him feel very upset. With Bewitching's voice falling, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but chuckle, nonsense, how can you say that? Bewitching stepped forward and approached Bailey Hongzhuang, standing before her, in my opinion, they were. Bailey Hongzhuang took a step back and her back was now stuck to the wall. You are too overbearing. Bewitching stretched out his right hand and reached for Bailey Hongzhuang's waist, pulling closer the distance between the two of them. I am such an overbearing person. You are mine, just mine. The voice was low and magnetic, vaguely revealing a bit of jealousy. His wife was so beautiful, he couldn't even count the men who had thoughts on her. He can't let any man have this chance. His wife was his, just his. Listening to Bewitching's overbearing words that were like an oath, Bailey Hongzhuang felt a bit helpless and funny, accompanied by a bit of joy. She had always known Bewitching's pride, but she hadn't known that Bewitching could be so overbearing. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang chuckle, Bewitching's eyes became darker each passing second, and his voice became deeper and lower, does wifey think I am wrong? Chapter 598. Remember to close your eyes next time. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's expression full of fascination, Di Beichen's heat trembled, and his eyes involuntarily fell on Bailey Hongzhuang's red lips. Every time he was so close to his wife, he had an urge to kiss her. He didn't know what kind of sweetness those red lips would have. She naturally noticed the dark and surging emotions in Di Beichen's eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang's head hung low, and she intended to move Di Beichen's hand, escaping from this danger zone. However, Di Beichen had already discovered her plan, and he directly pulled Bailey Hongzhuang close towards him. He could not let Bailey Hongzhuang escape. The next moment, his handsome face leaned in close to Bailey Hongzhuang's, as he directly tasted that place he had longed for. Bailey Hongzhuang only felt a shadow over her and Di Beichen attack her lips, but it was filled with a bit of tenderness and love. Not waiting for Bailey Hongzhuang to escape, her lips were kissed by Di Beichen. The touch was soft and warm, just like the tenderness and warmth of Di Beichen, as if he couldn't wait for her to know his feelings, expressing his strong love. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were wide open, and there was a huge blank in her brain. She didn't know what to do. She just stared at the perfect face of this magnificent beauty carved by God himself, kissing her with emotion. His kiss was gentle, tossing and turning, warm and affectionate. His kiss was also warm, the hot temperature was so close to her, letting her feel his strong and warm affection. Di Beichen pulled Bailey Hongzhuang into his arms. The taste was much sweeter than he had imagined and had a deadly seduction, which made him reluctant to let go. Bailey Hongzhuang's flush had already become flushed, and the air in her mouth had gradually disappeared. It wasn't until he felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was overwhelmed that Di Beichen released Bailey Hongzhuang. Looking at the beauty before him, Di Beichen's heart was filled with emotions. He quietly leaned near Bailey Hongzhuang's ear, smiling and saying, "Wifey, next time remember to close your eyes." His words made Bailey Hongzhuang's cheeks become red like apples, and her earlobes were also red as if they were going to bleed. Di Bei. Bailey Hongzhuang felt indignant. This damn guy really liked to make her look foolish and also dared to laugh at her. Seeing the burning brilliance in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, the smile in Di Beichen's eyes deepened. Wifey is really cute, especially when she is shy. You, scram. Bailey Hongzhuang was feeling displeased. This guy really didn't care for his face, his thin was becoming thicker and his actions more and more overdone. However, when Bailey Hongzhuang was ready to drive out Di Beichen suddenly held Bailey Hongzhuang in his arms. The broad and warm embrace enveloped Bailey Hongzhuang, and she could smell a faint and intoxicating fragrance. It was the fragrance of Di Beichen. "What are you doing? Go out." Bailey Hongzhuang was ashamed, but she was helpless against this guy's tricks. Di Beichen's hands on her gradually tightened, firmly holding Bailey Hongzhuang, as if to meld Bailey Hongzhuang into his bones. "Wifey, thank you for agreeing to be with me." Di Beichen slowly whispered. He had never felt this happy until Bailey Hongzhuang agreed to be with him. Hearing these words, Bailey Hongzhuang stiffened, and her struggling figure quietly stopped struggling. Chapter 599. Hatred. Li Yu, in this life, I will never wrong you. Di Beichen's words were firm and sincere, for as long as he would live, his heart would belong to only one woman. Bailey Hongzhuang's red lips gradually curved in a gentle and happy smile, and her hands slowly wrapped around Di Beichen's waist. "I want to hold your hand and grow old with you." From the moment she agreed, she never thought about separating. What she wanted was only Di Beichen's heart. As for other superficial objects, she never cared for things. With Bailey Hongzhuang's voice falling, Di Beichen's embrace on her tightened a bit, and his smile became even more dazzling than before. "Me too. I want to hold your hand and grow old together." The news that Chen Wanye had actually stood up quickly spread through the imperial city like the wind. No one knows how, or when, but it had become a hot topic of discussion for everyone. In the Prime Minister's official residence, Li Yu was still immersed in the joy of Prince Shenyuan Huan's return, but she was worried that Shenyuan Huan would be displeased after seeing her appearance. Both these emotions mixed, and her mood became extremely complicated. Prince Shenyuan Huan, to be the wife of such a distinguished person was her biggest dream. After kicking away the two stumbling blocks Bailey Hongzhuang and Bailey Yuyan, she had finally become Shenyuan Huan's fiancée. However, she was really saddened by the current state of her face. At this moment, a servant girl gave her a message. Miss, Bailey Hongzhuang came back from Tsanglan College. Hearing this, Li Yuyu had a touch of disgust and resentment in her eyes. That woman has also come back, that is normal, but her disabled husband hasn't come back since she left. Could it be he doesn't want her? Li Yuyu chuckled, her voice was full of ridicule and degradation in her eyes. Although she could not find evidence, she always felt that the sudden appearance of so many freckles on her face must be due to Bailey Hongzhuang. Therefore, she was extremely hateful towards Bailey Hongzhuang, and she hoped that Bailey Hongzhuang's days would be extremely miserable. Only then would she be happy. Di Bei Chen had been away from Fengbo country for a long time. Although Bailey Hongzhuang's marriage to the crippled was enough to make her happy, and if that cripple had even abandoned Bailey Hongzhuang and left, it would make her feel even better. The servant girl looked at Li Yuyu's face, and her voice was full of embarrassment. Miss, Bailey Hongzhuang came back with Chen Wangye. Li Yuyu was stunned and then her eyebrows furrowed, and in her dark eyes flashed a trace of doubt. When did that prince go to the college? He is just a cripple. Did he go to the college to have himself laughed at? Miss, I heard that Chen Wangye's legs are cured, good enough to stand up. The servant girl said in a small tone. As soon as this was said, Li Yuyu's look changed suddenly, as if she had seen a ghost. Her eyes were focused on the servant girl, and she could not believe what she had just heard. What did you say? Say it again. Listening to Li Yuyu's fierce questioning, the body of the servant girl trembled, and a hint of fear crept up her little face, and she timidly shrank away. Today, the Wang Ye and Wang Fei came back, the two were holding hands. They were seen by many people walking on the streets, and now the news has spread throughout the imperial city. Kacha! Li Yuyu's face was stiff and ferocious, and her hands directly pushed the teacup on the table to the ground. How is that possible? How can he stand up after such a long time? What kind of person was Chen Wangye? If the prince had really stood up then, hadn't he changed into a dragon and phoenix? Chapter 600 That slut, how is she deserving? At the thought of this, thick jealousy and hatred swept through Li Yuyu's heart. As everyone knows, the Chen Wangye had a one-of-a-kind appearance and temperament. If it were not for the disability in his feet, he would most definitely be the most admired man of all of Imperial City's maidens. Even now, although he had been crippled, there were still many women who loved him. Previously, Bailey Hongzhuang had married a disabled person and this had made her gloat with ridicule at her. Now that Chen Wangye had stood up, what would the scene be like? That slut, how does she deserve this? Li Yuyu was angry, she hated that slut, and only hoped that her days would be extremely miserable. If it were not for Bailey Hongzhuang, she would now be known as the most beautiful maiden in the city. Would she be ashamed to see others because of the freckles on her face? If it wasn't for Bailey Hongzhuang, she wouldn't have missed the royal hunting game the last time. She would certainly be a student of the college, and she would even be there with her fiancé, the crown prince, and become the object of envy of many. Now, she could only stay in her own room, worrying about her face. That woman she could trample under her feet and was worthless. How had she become so outstanding now? Miss, don't be angry, don't hurt your body. The servant girl quickly said. Li Yuyu's face was gloomy, and her eyes were filled with hatred. Damn, how can that Bailey Hongzhuang act so prideful? Did you inform General Dai about this news? A doubtful expression appeared on the servant's face. The general is in a period of mourning because of his son and daughter's death. Recently, he rarely appears in the public. What does Miss mean? Li Yuyu's lips curved in a dangerous arc. General Dai's daughter is dead. Now, even his son was killed. Bailey Hongzhuang has returned to the imperial city. What do you think General Dai will do? Bailey Hongzhuang was so arrogant and there were many people she had offended. She believed that once General Dai knows that Bailey Hongzhuang had come back, he would never let Bailey Hongzhuang off easy. Since Bailey Hongzhuang had offended her, she would naturally want to find ways to snuff out Bailey Hongzhuang's happiness. You, go and inform General Dai about his news. Hearing this, there was faint hesitation revealed on the face of the servant girl. Not going. Li Yuyu's tone was scary. I know you will get this job done, right? The servant girl made a sound of acquiescence, quickly saying, Miss, I'll go. She looked at the figure of the servant girl quickly walking away, and Li Yuyu finally showed a satisfied expression. Damn Bailey Hongzhuang, I will never let you stay happy. In the Imperial Palace. After the Emperor, Shenyuan Yutian knew that Di Beichen had returned, so his face also revealed a rare expression of panic. In his heart, it can be said that there were 10,000 regrets. If he had known that there was still a day when Di Beichen could stand up, he would not have turned a blind eye to all the insults that Di Beichen had suffered in the past 3 years. Although he had always known that Di Beichen's identity was not simple, after all, any person sent from a cultivation sect would naturally not be simple. It was for this reason that he had given Di Beichen the status of a prince, to eat and drink as he pleased. However, after a year had passed, there was no progress seen with Di Beichen and he had been mistaken for the illegitimate son of the emperor and even the common people talked about it. This was detrimental to his face. Therefore, later on, he was a bit less polite to Di Beichen. But after all, who would think that a person who had been disabled for 3 years would one day stand up? Chapter 601 Panic. Shenyuan Yutian was almost certain now. The matter of Di Beichen suddenly being able to stand up was absolutely not unrelated to Bailey Hongzhuang, and it was most likely that it was Bailey Hongzhuang who had cured him. As soon as he thought of Bailey Hongzhuang's achievements, Shenyuan Yutian regretted his decision a lot. If he knew that Bailey Hongzhuang would have such achievements now, however the matter may have been, he would not have let Shenyuan Huan cancel the marriage contract. At this person, he constantly wondered why Bailey Hongzhuang, who was such a wonderful person now, why was she so unremarkable in the past? Swindler. This was definitely the best liar that Shenyuan Yutian had ever seen. The most important point was that Bailey Hongzhuang was now so high profile. What could he even do to that Bailey Hongzhuang? Shenyuan Yutian was caught in a dilemma. At this point, his regrets were of no use. The only hope he had was to minimize the damage. The return of Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang was undoubtedly an excellent opportunity. He had to find a way to understand Di Beichen's stand on the matter. Otherwise, he would really be walking on eggshells. Shenyuan Huan really didn't understand why his father and mother were so nervous after knowing that Di Beichen had come back. Even if Di Beichen could stand now, he was still a prince of Fengbo. Could he still treat them with any disrespect? Mother Empress, tell me what identity Di Beichen has. Why are you sitting here with Father Emperor? Shenyuan Huan looked at Jiang Jining in front of him. He really didn't understand. They were the royal family of Fengbo. They were in existence above tens of thousands of people. There was no need for such worry. He had never seen his mother and father this worried since he was a child. Seeing Shenyuan Huan's incomprehensibility about the matter, Jiang Jining sighed and looked sad. Di Beichen's identity is not as simple as you think, In my opinion, you should still find a way to build a good relationship with Di Beichen. If he hates you because of what you had done before, then even if it is me or your father, we can't help you. When these words were heard, Shenyuan Huan's expression suddenly changed. He has not expected things to be this serious. It's hard to think. Di Beichen's identity was even higher than his father's. This was not impossible, but for such an existence, it was impossible for them to appear in Fengbo, and it was even more impossible to become the crippled prince of Fengbo. As soon as he thought of his previous humiliation of Di Beichen, Shenyuan Huan's heart became cold. Mother Empress, you and father, what are you talking about? Shenyuan Huan's eyes were a little anxious. Before he had listened to the guesses of other people, he only knew that Di Beichen was really the illegitimate son of his father. Towards the proof of this shame, he was naturally rude and would not be polite. He even felt that even if Di Beichen, died, he had nothing to do with him. Di Beichen, he is from a martial arts cultivation sect. Now, Jiang Jining no longer concealed it from Shen Yuanhuan. In fact, this news could no longer be concealed. After Shen Yuanhuan understood everything, his face became pale in an instant. Mother Empress, since Di Beichen has such an identity, when I humiliated and tortured him, why didn't you remind me? Shen Yuanhuan panicked. At this moment, he finally understood why when Di Beichen faced him, it was always like he was air. In fact, comparing the identity of the two people, it was indeed the difference between clouds and mud. Chapter 602 Feeling embarrassed, Jiang Jining over the years, his triumph, his arrogance, everything in front of Di Beichen's eyes was only a joke. If it had been him, he would definitely not have the temperament and calmness that Di Beichen had shown. For a long time, he had only considered him to be an illegitimate son of his father, so his dislike for Di Beichen was completely understandable. But the true identity of Di Beichen was so high, then he had fallen from that altar to having the status of today. Such a thing was simply unacceptable for an average person, let alone being able to endure such humiliation. At the thought of this, Shen Yuanhuan felt that Di Beichen was really terrible. His emotions were all so deeply hidden in his heart. He really was a cultivator from a big sect. The situation at the time was very complicated. I as well as your father were helpless. Jiang Jining sighed and some helplessness showed on her face. Di Beichen is a distinguished person, but he fell from grace because of the disability in his legs. When he got here, some people said that they didn't want Di Beichen to have a good time here, so I and your father had never stopped you. However, even still, Di Beichen's identity is not simple. Once the sovereign returns or there are other variables and that person does not admit it, your father and I will become scapegoats. It is for this reason that I and your father have carefully considered everything for the past 3 years, neither letting Di Beichen's days be too comfortable, but also not daring to let Di Beichen suffer too much. Jiang Jining sighed. For this matter, it can be said that she and Shen Yuantian had thought for a long time. Originally, they only thought that after the sovereign returned, with Di Beichen's identity, he would return to the sect, but what they had not expected was that Di Beichen would stand up. This was like a miracle. Di Beichen had stood up after 3 years of disability. Not only that, according to the news they had received, Di Beichen had earlier returned to Tiangang Zone to clean up all those who had previously acted against him. Today's Di Beichen was no longer the same as he used to be, and he no longer had his previous destiny but was a noble young lord. Even if she and the emperor saw Di Beichen, they needed to be polite and they wouldn't dare to be the slightest bit disrespectful. Hearing this, Shen Yuanhuan understood this. As his mother said, this is the only best way to check and balance between everything. It turned out so. Shen Yuanhuan sighed. It can be said that he had still been quite dissatisfied with Di Beichen, and he even had an idea of teaching Di Beichen his place. Now all those had gone, he only hoped that Di Beichen could forgive him for everything he had done. Otherwise, if Di Beichen wanted his life, then he would be helpless. Suddenly, Shen Yuanhuan frowned. In that case, isn't it strange that Di Beichen agreed to get married to Bailey Hongzhuang? If Di Beichen was just an ordinary prince, it was not surprising for him to marry Bailey Hongzhuang. His identity was so honorable though, even if Bailey Hongzhuang was the daughter of a general, she was definitely not worthy of him. Just as Di Beichen had refused all the previous marriages his father had proposed, he could have refused it directly, but why did he agree? Jiang Jining shook her head. I don't know. According to my opinion, it is very likely that Di Beichen likes Bailey Hongzhuang, so he married her. For this matter, she could no longer think of other reasons. Di Beichen has come to Fengbo to 3 years, and Tiangang Zone had not made any movement. Therefore, she and Shen Yuantian also felt that the possibility of Di Beichen returning was getting smaller and smaller. Chapter 603 Sole Alternative. It was for this reason that they had become less and less worried about Di Beichen's situation. In the beginning, they also thought that the sovereign would come back soon, and they had been very good and polite to Di Beichen. Later, they felt that this possibility was getting smaller and smaller, and the two gradually let go of their worries and even ignored it. Still, they kept Di Beichen's position in their minds. If Di Beichen had really refused to marry Bailey Hongzhuang, then she and Shenyuan Yutian wouldn't have dared to force him to agree. Therefore, at that time, when Di Beichen agreed to the marriage, even she and Shenyuan Yutian were surprised. Now it had come to this, Di Beichen did not agree to the marriage because of the pressure from the two of them, but also because he wanted to do it. Shenyuan Huan's eyes showed a faint emotion. Originally, Bailey Hongzhuang was his fiancée. It was because he had not recognized the treasure, Bailey Hongzhuang now was so dazzling. On the contrary, Di Beichen had a really unique vision for being able to understand Bailey Hongzhuang's magnificence. This had become the biggest regret of his life. Mother Empress, Di Beichen has come back now, I wonder if he will find us for trouble? On Shenyuan Huan's face appeared a touch of worry. It was difficult to think of Di Beichen like this, it would be more difficult to face him. Jiang Jinying's face was also very ugly. I don't know, but these things are no longer in our hand. We can only move along with Di Beichen's decisions. Looking at Jiang Jinying's helpless look, Shenyuan Huan's heart also became solemn. He now felt that his identity was not noble enough. Even if he had gone to the college, his identity as the crown prince still received a lot of compliments. Although he did not become a student of the special enrollment class, his limelight was not weak. There were still many people in the college who admired him. He always felt that Bailey Hongzhuang would regret marrying Di Beichen, but he did not expect that it was he who was the frog at the bottom of the well. His self-righteous identity and Di Beichen's were not comparable at all. He was afraid that Di Beichen had always regarded him as a joke. I am going to hold a dinner party, and invite Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang to participate, and finally we can find a way to clear this matter. Jiang Jinying's eyes flashed with wisdom. Right now, everything was controlled by Di Beichen, the only thing they can do is try to clear up the past things. She believed that Di Beichen also knew that they were only doing this because some people had commanded from the shadows. They would only try to push this responsibility to that person. Di Beichen should understand the truth. At least, the price they would pay would not be too great. Shenyuan Huan nodded slightly. I am going to apologize to Di Beichen. Now, Shenyuan Huan would naturally not be stupid enough to think of him as just a crippled prince. Although he felt very uncomfortable at having to face Di Beichen, he also knew that Di Beichen was not a narrow-minded person. If he took the lead to apologize and was sincere enough, he believed that Di Beichen would not hold too much against him. In fact, this was the only way left. If Di Beichen does not accept it, then he would pay for what he had done before. You can think so, I am relieved. Jiang Jining breathed a sigh of relief. Her most pressing worry was that Shenyuan Huan would not be willing to bend, then their situation would be even more difficult. Empress Mother, you can rest assured, I understand. Shenyuan Huan looked firm, this was his sole alternative. Chapter 604 Attitude, Shenyuan Huan, about Li Yuyu, you should be prepared for what is to be done. Jiang Jining thought about Shenyuan Huan's lifelong matter after they had thought of how they would deal with Di Beichen. Since Shenyuan Huan was the crown prince, it was not a difficult thing to choose a good person as his princess. However, she didn't know why, every time Shenyuan Huan chose a fiancé, the chosen princess would have some problem. It was needless to explain, Bailey Hongzhuang things were naturally known, Bailey Yuyen had been disfigured and had even died in the royal hunting game, and they had finally chosen the daughter of the prime minister, Li Yuyu. There were a lot of freckles on her face. Although she had never seen Li Yuyu since, from the prime minister's attitude, the number of freckles was definitely not small. This was the chosen princess, and in the future, she would be the mother of the country. If her face was full of freckles, wouldn't it be too shameful when the news spread? How could she still face the world proudly? However, if they were to break off the engagement and select someone else, she was afraid that Xianyuan Huan would become a joke. The crown princess's position would be like a child's play. It had been changed so many times before the marriage itself. Anyone who heard this would find it ridiculous. At the thought of this, Jiang Jining was really worried. And she also knew that had she not let Xianyuan Huan arbitrarily lift the marriage contract with Bailey Hongzhuang, then there would be no such things. Hearing this, Xianyuan Huan also frowned, and there was a hint of intolerance in his eyes. Now, he too felt annoyed about this marriage and did not even want to choose a crown princess. Mother Empress, your son has now put all his heart into cultivation. I am not keen on this kind of matter. It is better to put it aside for the time being. Xianyuan Huan said. How can that be? Jiang Jining immediately objected. You are a prince. It will be good for you to pick a princess early. Only in this way, I and your father will think that you are truly an adult. But I am cultivating in the Zhanglan College. Most of the time, I am not in the imperial city. Xianyuan Huan argued. Jiang Jining waved her hand and her attitude was very determined. You will be the emperor in the future. Letting you go to college to cultivate your strength is just to prove your strength. You will not become a cultivator in the future, but become the emperor of Fengbo. You might meet some promising cultivators in college, you can pay attention to them. If you meet the right ones, you can recruit them back. Most of the cultivators in college are very promising. You are now in college and many people know you, this will be good for your future. It is, therefore, these reasons that I had you attend the Zhanglan College. However, even if your cultivation is good, that is not your path. Do you understand? Jiang Jinying's graceful face was full of seriousness and warning. She does not want Xianyuan Huan to forget his status as the crown prince and become a member of those ordinary cultivators. Xianyuan Huan's expression changed a bit. Now that he had been in the college for a while, he had indeed been affected by the emotions of the cultivators. Now, after listening to Jiang Jinying's reminder, he discovered that he had really gone astray. Empress Mother, your child knows. Xianyuan Huan nodded. Jiang Jining glanced at Xianyuan Huan with appreciation. Now after so many things, Xianyuan Huan had become more mature than before, which had made her very satisfied. In this case, according to how things are going, it is better to invite that Li girl when the dinner is held. It will not be late after we understand Bewitching's true intentions. Chapter 605 Seeing Again, an old friend Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching lived in the Qin Prince's manor, and the days were pleasant and happy as they passed by. Compared to their previous situation when they had been in the prince's manor, the two of them were now in a different mood. The two of them had the right to take a holiday and sometimes went to the streets to go shopping. In the imperial city, everyone knew that the relationship between Prince Chen and his princess was really good. They had become the object of envy of many young men and women. They only hoped that in the future, they too would be like the prince and princess, and their husband or wife could love them for years to come. Bailey Hongzhuang went to the 10,000 medicine shop. Ji Wenbin was also very happy to see her, and the two people talked. Speaking of, the first friend that Bailey Hongzhuang had made after crossing over was Ji Wenbin. Ji Wenbin had always treated her as a sister and given her a lot of help. Therefore, Bailey Hongzhuang was also very grateful to Ji Wenbin. Hongzhuang, how are you doing in that college? Ji Wenbin's face was full of excitement and joy. I haven't seen you for such a long time, and you have become even more beautiful. You overpraise me. Bailey Hongzhuang had a smile, and there was a little bit of joy on her face. And I met many like-minded friends in school. That's good. Ji Wenbin nodded. Prince Chen was also with you, right? I heard that the prince's legs have been cured, did you heal it? The curve of Bailey Hongzhuang's lips became a bit wider. Big brother is right. He, DBC, is very good to me, he is now a student with me at the college. Oh? Ji Wenbin was slightly surprised for a moment. He hadn't heard this news, but after seeing the faint happiness in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes, he also revealed a happy smile. That is good. In the beginning, I was worried that you would be wronged if you marry Prince Chen. Now it seems that you are really far-sighted and chose a good husband. Listening to Ji Wenbin's words, Bailey Hongzhuang felt a little moved. In the beginning, she and Ji Wenbin had just met each other. Ji Wenbin had been helping her and was even worried she would be wronged in her marriage. In this big city, the first one who treated her sincerely was Ji Wenbin. Yes, your godly medicine square is also developing very well under the care of Du Tianxua and Dong Siro. Now, the people in the imperial city will go to the square if they have any discomfort. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. They both have a talent for medicine and treatment. It's not surprising that they have made this achievement. Du Tianxua and Dong Siro were both simple and kind, and she liked them very much, so she had left them the book about medicine and also her experience. She believed that the medical skills of the two would have made no small amount of improvement. In the beginning, it was only a means for her to make a living, but since the godly medicine square could grow to such an extent, she was very satisfied. However, the most important thing for her now was to improve her cultivation. She would not be able to take care of the godly medicine square. Du Tianxua and Dong Siro were good choices. I understand that your ambition is cultivation. No matter what you do, Big Brother will support you. Ji Wenbin smiled heartily. In the beginning, he had felt sorry for the fact that he was skilled but not a physician. Now after seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's any aspects of talent, he did not think those previous words. After a long time talking with Ji Wenbin, Bailey Hongzhuang went to the godly medicine square. Sure enough, as Ji Wenbin had said, the entrance was packed with people. Chapter 606 Back again. Godly medicine square. Dong Siro and Du Tianxua were very happy to Bailey Hongzhuang. If they had not been taken in by Bailey Hongzhuang, they would have nowhere to go. Ah, you are back. Dong Siro put down what she was doing and quickly walked to before Bailey Hongzhuang. It was difficult to hide the color of joy on her pretty face. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded and smiled. The college is on holidays, so I came back to take a look. You have taken care of godly medicine square very well. And it is the shop that you left behind, Du Tianxua, and I don't dare to neglect. Dong Siro smiled, rejoicing. For Bailey Hongzhuang, her heart was filled with extreme admiration. A woman like Bailey Hongzhuang who had achieved what she had was awesome. Du Tianxua also came over. His character had always been introverted, and he did not know what to say after seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, but the smile on his face revealed his feelings. Ah, Wang Fei, godly medicine square has had good income these days. I and Du Tianxua have taken care of the finances, just waiting for you to come back. Bailey Hongzhuang waved her hand. I don't have time to take care of godly medicine square now. The two of you have been taking care of it this while, the income is naturally yours. When these words were said, Dong Siro and Du Tianxua shook their heads again and again. How can that be? We are just helping you, all this is yours. The two of you are very talented in the field of medicine. After all, this godly medicine square was built by me. I will also be assured if I hand it over to you that you will take care of it. I have given it to you now. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were gentle. She knew Dong Siro and Du Tianxua's characters. However, she had not done anything in the godly medicine square all this while. It was better to give them this medicine shop. In this way, it would be in good condition. After listening to Bailey Hongzhuang's meaning for her decision, Du Tianxua quickly said, You could take us in, we are very grateful. Not only that, but you also taught us medical skills. This is really a good fortune that must have been cultivated by our ancestors. However, this godly medicine square is your shop. I and Dong Siro only want to help you, You can't directly hand it over to us. He had received enough kindness from Qin Wangfei. He just wanted to repay Qin Wangfei's kindness by taking care of Godly Medicine Square. Dong Si Ro on the side nodded again and again. Since you don't have the time to take care of Godly Medicine Square, we will help you. We don't need other things. Seeing that Du Tianxua and Dong Si Ro's attitude was so firm, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded after some hesitation. She also understood the reluctance of the two people. If that is the case, then we will do it as you said. However, the earnings from the Godly Medicine Square will belong to you. It's just that I will be Godly Medicine Square's owner. How? The exquisite and beautiful face was warm and full of touching emotions, and Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was also warm and gentle, but extremely firm. If you disagree, then it will be as I said before. Dong Si Ro and Du Tianxua looked at each other and knew that as the matters stood, they had no other choice. Thank you, Wang Fei. The two of them said together. Bailey Hongzhuang just waved her hand and smiled. This is what you two earned by yourself. What are you thanking me for? I just met with Big Brother previously. How about getting together at a restaurant in the evening? Dong Si Ro and Du Tianxua smiled brightly, the excitement on their faces difficult to hide. Chapter 6073 Foodies. The night was cool like water, a cool breeze blowing gently. Bailey Hongzhuang returned to the Qin Manor, pouring a cup of tea to drink. Previously, she had had dinner with Ji Wenbin and the others. She only felt that her mood was very good. Xiao He and Xiao Bai were also very happily touching their round belly. They really liked this kind of joyful atmosphere, where they could have a happy meal. We ate a lot today. It was really delicious too. This is life. Xiao He said excitedly. Xiao Bai agreed with a nod. This kind of gathering is really good. The food in today's restaurant was also good. Bailey Hongzhuang listened to the conversation of the two little guys, and in her heart, she couldn't help but laugh. These two little fluffs have been trapped in the chaos ring for so many years, they must have had no other problem except their inability to eat. Baisher looked at Xiao He and Xiao Bai in disgust. These two acted like they had been starved. Although, he too felt it was delicious, but while eating he was much better than those two guys. Baisher was on the table, and his two small claws held a demonic beast core, which was much more delicious to him. Thinking of this, Baisher directly bit into it, a crisp sound ringing. Looking at this ensemble of three foodies, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but feel fortunate that she had a lot of means to make money, otherwise, these three beasts would be enough to make her poor. Xiao He and Xiao Bai were not easy to raise, and Baisher's demonic beast cores were worth a lot. After studying inscriptions for a period of time in the stone room of the Chaos Ring, she found that the old man in the stone room had given her relatively simple inscriptions. Complicated or high-level ones were not given to her, and, like alchemy, she wouldn't be able to refine further with her current cultivation, needing to master even the basics. The same was true for inscriptions. Judging from the grace of the old man, the inscriptions he had mastered were definitely not just simple inscriptions. There were also many stone rooms in the Chaos Ring. She had reason to think that there may be more advanced inscriptions in other stone rooms. However, it was not enough wanting to learn it with her current cultivation. These ordinary inscriptions were enough for her to study for a while. She was not in a hurry, these things could be done slowly, and there were many things more urgent. Just then, a knock sounded on the door. "Wifey, have you come back?" Xiao He and Xiao Bai hearing this voice immediately shrank their bodies and jumped to Bailey Hongzhuang's head. After all that eating, they were a little bigger than before. "Come in." Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's voice, Di Beichen immediately opened the door. Upon seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, the handsome and perfect face was also filled with a smile. "Wifey, were you happy going out with them this time?" Di Beichen asked. Originally he had planned to with his wifey, but thinking that he and Ji Wenbin were not familiar with each other if he were to go, he was afraid that they would be uncomfortable. If he didn't go, they could also enjoy more. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and nodded. I was very happy. I don't have many friends in this imperial city. They are the few I do have. Di Beichen's deep eyes reflected Bailey Hongzhuang's smile. He knew that his wife had always been a person who kept others' favors in her heart. Since she had visited them, Ji Wenbin and the other two certainly had some weight in her heart. News came from the palace today, they will be hosting a dinner in the Imperial Garden tomorrow. They specially invited me to come with wifey. What do you think, wifey? Chapter 608 Calculating all old accounts. Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes slightly narrowed, the corner of her lips curving in an enchanting smile. Since it is an invitation from the palace, we naturally have to go take a look. They had come back this time to see a good show. Di Beichen's identity had become very different now. She thought that the emperor must be having a headache over this. Going to the palace tomorrow, they can also see what attitude the imperial family had. Now, the two of them had come back to collect debts. In the past, those who had humiliated them should take a good look at them now. If they still didn't know the right thing to do, they could only take the matters in their own hands. After all, they had to calculate all the old accounts of those who had been so proud. As for the general's family, Bailey Hongzhuang was also prepared to settle this matter. In the future, she was not willing to have any involvement with that general, and the so-called young miss of general's family title no longer belonged to her. Because she had never been their young miss, and there was no connection between her and Bailey Zhentao. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's expression, Di Beichen revealed a smile. Tomorrow we will see a good show. If wifey sees someone she doesn't like, just teach them a lesson. He knew that over the years, Bailey Hongzhuang had suffered a lot of grievances in the imperial city. Compared to the humiliation he had endured in the past 3 years, Bailey Hongzhuang had suffered a lot more than him. Even now, some of her grievances had not been accounted, and he only hoped that Bailey Hongzhuang would vent all her feelings and be happy in the future. Bailey Hongzhuang's cinnabar lips curved slightly, and through her smiling expression appeared a trace of craftiness and ridicule. This time will be my first time being a fox exploiting a tiger's might to scold and coerce. My wifey has always been an existence that can't be easily provoked. Di Beichen smiled softly, his eyes shining with pampering indulgence. After deciding over this matter, Bailey Hongzhuang also felt satisfied and happy. Beichen, from the herbs I wrote for you before, how many did you find? This had always been a matter of great concern to her. Although Di Beichen had stood up, the problem with his cursed constitution hadn't been completely resolved. They must find all the herbs in order to transfer Di Beichen's cursed constitution to Mandate of Heaven constitution. As a result, Di Beichen's constitution would undergo earth-shaking changes, and his speed of cultivation would accelerate greatly. Tian Gangzong has a lot of medicinal herbs. I have searched for those herbs in the sect. Since I still could not find the medicinal herbs, the rareness of those herbs can be seen. Hearing these words, Bailey Hongzhuang sighed slightly. These herbs were indeed not simple. There were still many herbs that were as priceless as before. In fact, it was already much easier to find the herbs with Di Beichen's identity. Which 4 herbs are still remaining? Bailey Hongzhuang asked. Amethyst Dragon Emperor Ginseng, Cold Flame Tears, Blood Essence Phantom Fruit, and 9-grade Violet Zoysia Pungence. Di Beichen's voice was a bit dull. He had already inquired, these 4 were extremely rare herbs. From what he had inquired, they rarely appeared. Even if he had sent someone to go out and search for it, there was still no news. Hearing Di Beichen's answer, Bailey Hongzhuang didn't feel it was unexpected. These 4 kinds of herbs were all treasures. Their efficacy was very good and their growth conditions were extremely harsh. It was not without reason that they were so rare. Chapter 609 Made by Heaven and Arranged by Earth. Bailey Hongzhuang had only come across those herbs once before, but it had taken a long time and huge human and financial resources to gather them. I will pay more attention to news about these 4 kinds of herbs, and strive to get them as soon as possible. There was a bright and firm light in her eyes. These 4 herbs were very important for Di Bei Chen's future. If they came across it, they couldn't miss it. I have sent people to other sects to ask for traces of these 4 herbs, but these 4 herbs are really extremely rare. Until now there has been no news. Di Bei Chen was not surprised by this. Tiangang Zone was a large sect, any of the herbs that could be found elsewhere could be found in Tiangang Zone too. However, this time it was obviously different. It wouldn't be easy to get it even from other places. We will find them. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled, she believed that the heavens would favor them. Di Bei Chen nodded, and there was no sign of depression or loss in his expression. After so many years, he had already trained his mind to be firm. He would not give up even in the last moment. At night, the imperial palace was already very lively. The palace eunuchs were constantly moving around and through the place, delicately prepared snacks, delicious dishes, and sweet and intoxicating drinks were placed on the table one by one, and the rich fragrance filled the entire hall. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Bei Chen arrived, the invited officials had already arrived. The 2 of them had arrived late. However, the emperor and empress had not arrived yet. As always was the custom, before the imperial family arrived, at this time, the civil and military officials could also converse with each other. Once the emperor arrived, even if it was a feast with rules not too rigid, everyone could still not avoid the feeling of being restrained. With the arrival of Di Bei Chen and Bailey Hongzhuang, the original hustle and bustle of the main hall became silent in a moment. The eyes of all the people had unconsciously landed on the Chen Wangye and Wang Fei, who had been in limelight recently. Di Bei Chen still wore a soft golden robe, his aura was imposing. His features were handsome, and his temperament was extraordinary, and even in the imperial palace, no one could stand shoulder to shoulder with it. Li Yuyu looked at Di Bei Chen. Although she already knew that Di Bei Chen was no longer a cripple and she has always known that Di Bei Chen was extraordinary, but there was still a feeling of amazement when she saw him. This kind of temperament, this kind of aura, let alone Prince Shenyuan Huan, even the Emperor Shenyuan Yutian could not compare. Such a man was really the dream of every young woman. Next to him was Bailey Hongzhuang, dressed in a white dress. She was like a willow, her waist thin, her eyebrows perfect, an exquisite beauty. Bailey Hongzhuang had always been a beauty, but Li Yuyu only knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was a little more beautiful than before. It seemed that her temperament had changed. The Chen Wangye and Wang Fei are really a pair made by heaven and arranged by the earth. This old man has lived for so long and has never seen a pair more suited. The Chen Wangye and Wang Fei are really a pair of dragon and phoenix, now standing together it is like they have been reborn. The official smiled and turned to look at Li Qingqian, who was next to him. Prime Minister Li really contributed to this marriage. Hearing this, Li Qingqian only felt extraordinarily ironic. He did not have the plan to make Bailey Hongzhuang and Chen Wangye happy. No matter what his thoughts were, now he could only smile and laugh as if he were happy. It is true. This old man also didn't think that the 2 of them were so suitable. Chapter 610 To Deflate and Destroy, Bailey Hao Xian. Li Yuyu's hands had already tightened into fists under her sleeve. Bailey Hongzhuang had indeed changed and achieved fortune. In the past, she had always regarded Bailey Yuyan as her opponent. She had never put Bailey Hongzhuang in her eyes. She hadn't expected Bailey Hongzhuang to reach the point she had today. Wifey, let's sit first. Di Bei Chen took Bailey Hongzhuang's hands without any scruples and walked to the upper seat and sat down. His beautiful voice was gentle and soft, his gestures revealing concern as everyone watched. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, her distinct beauty peerless, her face overflowing with a clear smile like moving water. Bailey Zhentao's gaze had frozen on Bailey Hongzhuang ever since she arrived, as he stopped in the middle of what he was doing, and as he looked at his daughter again, he had a very strange feeling. Nowadays, the picture of the general's residence was bleak. After Bailey Yuyan and Su Wanjing had successively died, in the big general residence, only the 2 people, Bailey Zhentao and Bailey Hao Xian remained. Those former lively pictures had already gone forever, and Bailey Jintao had aged a lot in a short period. Father, ever since that Bailey Hongzhuang unexpectedly came back, she hasn't come to pay obeisance to you. Bailey Hao Xian's eyes were overflowing with malicious intent. The reason why his mother and older sister had died was definitely not without Bailey Hongzhuang's influence. The humiliation of their family was at present unexpectedly so unbridled. Seeing her still daring to put on airs, it was truly repulsive. Bailey Jintao's expression changed somewhat, unaware why. With his previous experience and the matters afterward, he unexpectedly felt that Bailey Hongzhuang had become an existence too high to reach. Don't mind it, allow her to go. Bailey Jintao shook his head. Over the past years, he as a father had always been harsh to Bailey Hongzhuang in every way possible, never showing consideration to her at all times. Bailey Hongzhuang's current attitude to him was not at all strange. Presumable Bailey Hongzhuang had long since hated him. These days he had understood quite many things. Subsequently, his attitude also changed. Listening to Bailey Jintao, Bailey Hao Xian's eyes flashed with inconceivable emotions. He simply couldn't believe what he had heard just now. His father had unexpectedly let off Bailey Hongzhuang. How could that be? However, Bailey Jintao's expression as he drank wine alone proved that what he heard was true. Damn it! He still wanted to demand payback and exact revenge for his older sister. What qualification did that cheap slut have to act this arrogant? In a flash, Bailey Hao Xian stood up, not waiting for Bailey Jintao's obstruction. He had already left without asking him, walking over to Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang, in any case, you are a part of the general's residence. Now, to yield interests, you don't even recognize your home. Aren't you too excessive? Bailey Hao Xian took the lead to speak out his dissatisfaction, the words spoken not at all courteous. Even though other people spoke of Bailey Hongzhuang's strength now, he dismissed it. Like before, he could forever trample Bailey Hongzhuang beneath the soles of his feet like a pitiful wretch. Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes slightly rose, and the corner of her mouth hooked in an alluring smile. So, you came here wanting me to you my younger brother? Bailey Hao Xian's complexion became stiff. You, this kind of woman does not have the qualification to be my elder sister. After Di Beichen heard Bailey Hao Xian's words, his brows gradually wrinkled and he sat up straight preparing to speak, but Bailey Hongzhuang stopped him. It happens that, I too have this idea. Since we find each other mutually unpleasant to the eye, why act like close relatives? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled gracefully, every movement emitting a noble air, but on the contrary, Bailey Hao Xian looked like an ordinary clown. Chapter 611, Invincible. Bailey Hongzhuang was somewhat stunned. His black eyes flashed with a doubtful and incomprehensive light. He had not seen her for a few months. Why was it that he felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was completely different from the past? He actually felt that there was a feeling of Bailey Hongzhuang being invincible. No matter what he said, Bailey Hongzhuang did not take note of it. I, naturally, do not wish to be considered your family, but father is here too. You are simply too much. Bailey Haoxuan proudly raised his chin. He could use the words of shaming the family, so now he was going to tear Bailey Hongzhuang's mask apart. General Bailey himself has yet to speak, so why are you talking already? Bailey Hongzhuang's lips hooked up in a smile, but deep within her phoenix eyes was a cold gleam. She was clear as to what had happened between herself and Bailey Haoxuan before, but now time had passed and she did not plan on letting Bailey Jintao be completely without hope of grandchildren. Although Bailey Jintao had never treated her well over the years, she did still grow up in the general's household. Bailey Haoxuan staggered, and his expression changed a few times. He finally managed to squeeze out, I didn't expect you to be so unfilial. Looking at Bailey Haoxuan, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly stood up, her hands were wrapped around her chest, her eyes looking provocative towards her brother. I am like this, what can you do? Bailey Haoxuan was simply too naive, his words had no influence on her at all. Bailey Haoxuan was stunned. He thought that she would definitely crumble under such an accusation, that Bailey Hongzhuang would become scared. He never thought that she would directly admit to it. Admitting it. Had she made a mistake? Seeing that his words had absolutely no effect on her, how could he still make trouble? If you have nothing else to say, then you can go, Bailey Hongzhuang sneered. I don't like seeing your face very much. Bailey Hongzhuang, don't be too much. Bailey Haoxuan was really angry. The look of Bailey Hongzhuang was simply too infuriating. Why? The lips hooked into a smile, and her eyes were showing a mocking gleam. Bailey Haoxuan, last time I broke your arm, have you still not learned your lesson? Hearing the words of Bailey Hongzhuang, Bailey Haoxuan's face suddenly changed. Because of her, his arm was broken, so he could not even participate in the royal hunting game. Now, Bailey Hongzhuang had been studying at the college for so long, he was afraid that her strength had advanced by leaps and bounds. He was not her opponent at all. Scram! Bailey Hongzhuang's red lips parted slightly as she spat out the word. In Bailey Haoxuan's eyes anger was burning, but he had no way to face Bailey Hongzhuang at the moment. If you can't beat her, it is the same as simply looking for abuse. Although he was very unwilling, Bailey Haoxuan could only go back to his original position in anger and indignation. He had not expected that after Bailey Hongzhuang had gone to college, her means had become even more sophisticated. When Bailey Jintao saw the situation of Bailey Haoxuan, he could not help but sigh, as he buried his head and continued drinking. Master, well done. Little Black gave her a thumbs up. This was how you should act towards guys like Bailey Haoxuan. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly. After dinner today she was also planning on explaining everything to Bailey Jintao. If Bailey Jintao had been good to her over the years, she would not want to forge it, but the relationship between them had long since disappeared. Chapter 612, Treacherously Yuyue, who was seated far away, had some doubts in her eyes when she saw how Bailey Haoxuan was walking in front of Bailey Hongzhuang, after which he left angrily. The distance between them was too far, so she could not hear the conversation between Bailey Hongzhuang and Bailey Haoxuan. It was really quite regrettable. Bailey Hongzhuang was eating some snacks casually when Li Yuyue walked slowly towards her. The one who was coming over was not only Li Yuyue, but also another woman with outstanding looks. The woman was wearing a red dress. She was stunning and charming. The collar of her dress was wide, so that one could see the white neck and the delicate collar bone alongside some faintly exposed white flesh. As the woman was walking, she was both enchanting and charming, and the majority of all men's eyes were attracted to her, their line of sight condensed on the alluring body, as if every step she made was walking on them, making them feel hot and bothered. Master, this person seems bad. Little Black was alert. This Li Yuyue had always been an enemy of their master. Now that she had gone towards them, it could only be for the sake of finding her trouble. There was simply no other reason. The lips of Bailey Hongzhuang lifted in a playful arc. She was curious to see what trouble Li Yuyue had to bring. Li Yuyue took her wine glass and sent a provoking look to Bailey Hongzhuang. However, she did not speak to her. Instead, she stood in front of Bewitching. Wang Ye, congratulations on healing your legs. It is really amazing. Li Yuyue smiled. I will drink a toast to show my respect. As her voice fell, Li Yuyue directly drank the wine in her cup. Even so, Bewitching was sitting with a look of indifference as he looked at her. He remembered the trouble this woman had brought his wife before. He was not a person who easily forgot. Li Yuyue was not a person who'd really congratulate him, so she had to have some kind of conspiracy. He also wants to see what the woman was going to do. Seeing that Bewitching did not move, Li Yuyue's face contained a trace of embarrassment, but it quickly vanished as the smile on her face returned. Chen Wangye, this is my distant cousin. Her name is Miaoling. Li Yuyue walked slightly to the side as she allowed Miaoling to go up front. Miaoling has admired the prince for a long time. This is a chance to get to know the prince. Li Yuyue's expression was smug, and with the move of Miaoling, her smile deepened. She knew that the beauty could fascinate all men. She had noticed that all men present at the banquet had shown interest in Miaoling. Bewitching was also a man. She believed that he was no exception. Although Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were married, she had to find some ways to destroy Bailey Hongzhuang's happiness. The most unpleasant thing for a woman is when her beloved likes another woman. She deliberately found Miaoling just for the sake of giving her to Di Beichen. With her understanding of men, there was no chance that he would refuse such a gift. Now she would like to see just how Bailey Hongzhuang was getting destroyed. When the men present saw that Li Yuyue was bringing Miaoling in front of Di Beichen, all of their eyes lost their sparkle. Such a fascinating woman, they wanted to bring back with them themselves, but since Li Yuyue wanted to give her to Chen Wanye, they had no hope. I knew it, this Li Yuyue is too shameless. After seeing Li Yuyue's strategy, Little White could not help but snort. Li Yuyue's means were really too sinister. Chapter 613, Chen Wanye gets a concubine. Baisher was laying in Bailey Hongzhuang's embrace, stretching its two claws. It felt like directly ripping Li Yuyue's head off. Calm down, don't worry, Bailey Hongzhuang stroked Baisher's hair, but a cold gleam was within her eyes. Li Yuyue's move had successfully ignited her anger. Li Yuyue looked proudly at Bailey Hongzhuang. She just wanted to see the pain of Bailey Hongzhuang. Baisher looked at Li Yuyue with hatred. Although the claws settled down, the heart was still uneasy. The face of Miaoling was filled with happiness. Although she was not actually Li Yuyue's distant cousin, as Li Yuyue had said, she did admire Chen Wanye. When Li Yuyue found her, she had not expected anything from the other person, but now that she knew that it was a Wanye, her heart started to beat rapidly. Such a handsome man, she did not even have the chance to see one previously, yet now she was about to become a woman of the Wanye? When thinking like this, it was difficult to contain the excitement in the eyes of Miaoling. She was afraid that she did not know how many girls would envy her. Chen Wanye, little Miaoling has admired you for a long time. She spoke the words gently, her head was slightly lowered and her cheeks were red. The eyes were shining endlessly. Even as a woman, Bailey Hongzhuang felt it was attractive. This kind of charm was indeed astounding. However, most of such astounding women can only be reduced to become another person's plaything. Li Yuyue's smile widened even further. So, how do you feel? Hearing the words, the corner of Di Beichen's lips twitched as he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a smile. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged her shoulders and gestured that it was up to him to decide. Li Yuyue saw this action of Di Beichen and thought that it meant that Di Beichen wanted to bring Miaoling back to the palace with him, but he was worried about Bailey Hongzhuang. Chen Wanye only has you as his Wangfei, the people who serve him is too little, you should not object to this, right? Li Yuyue's words were a bit ironic. Under the eyes of the public, she did not believe that Bailey Hongzhuang would dare to say no. If she did, once it was spread out, the opinion of Bailey Hongzhuang would become unfavorable. I have always heard that the feelings between Chen Wanye and Chen Wangfei is very good. Now Li Yuyue has made such a move, I don't know how Chen Wangfei will respond. Obviously she will not refuse. Men has 3 wives and 4 concubines is normal. Not to mention Chen Wanye, isn't he a Wanye? She is so beautiful, no man will refuse, ha. The men present were all laughing, they shared the same feelings about the situation. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged her shoulders, since you are worried about Wanye's feelings, just ask Wanye. Li Yuyue's smile shone brilliantly, and felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was succumbing. This was the right decision. Chen Wangfei has no opinion about it, then please let my cousin take care of you. Li Yuyue's smile increased constantly, and she could not help but feel happiness whenever she thought about how Bailey Hongzhuang was going to be feeling about this. However, while Li Yuyue and Miaoling were happy, the voice of Di Beichen suddenly sounded, letting them freeze on the spot. Miss Li, you have a generous heart, I hope that after you marry the crown prince in the future, you can also think of him. Di Beichen's lips rose and released an evil charm, but the eyes were filled with indifference. However, this Wanye does not need your generosity. Chapter 614, Is this kind of woman also worthy? As soon as the words were spoken, Li Yue's expression stiffened and the smug smile on her face turned a bit funny. What do you mean by this? Li Yue asked. Her expression seemed to say that she did not believe what she had heard before. Such a stunning woman like Miaoling, she believed that no man would ever refuse such a gift. How can there be an exception such as Bewitching? Miaoling was also shocked. The shame she was feeling was evident on her face, and her expression was ugly. She was rejected by Bewitching. This Wang Ye does not need anyone except Qin Wangfei. Bewitching repeated the words again with a cold face. The cold and firm words did not contain even the slightest temperature, and Bewitching's face was indifferent. In his heart there was only space for Bailey Hongzhuang. In addition to Bailey Hongzhuang, all women were simply rocks to him. If Li Yue likes the crown prince, it is better to help the crown prince. According to what I know, it is very appropriate to marry with your distant cousin. As for this Wang Ye's house, you don't have to worry about it. When the voice of Bewitching fell, everyone present were stunned, their faces mixed with different colors. It was good fortune for Wang Ye to be sent such a beautiful woman. Who would have thought that Qin Wang Ye would suddenly turn cold and refuse? However, there was a certain truth in what Qin Wang Ye said. Li Yue is just a noble lady, it is far too much for her to try and force him to agree. Li Yue's face was ugly, a sharp contrast to the previous smug expression. I am just trying to be generous, Li Yue argued, Miaoling will be able to serve you well. The evil charm in Bewitching's smile increased, and his line of sight landed on Miaoling for a moment. He then raised his eyebrows. Is this kind of woman worthy? Li Yue's face was black and blue, the words of Bewitching had clearly refused. She did not understand, Miaoling was stunning from any angle you looked at her, how could she be unworthy in the eyes of Bewitching? Miaoling was not worthy, how was Bailey Hongzhuang? Miaoling's eyes were red and she looked at Bewitching with anger. She was originally sincere, but now she was despised by Bewitching. What was she supposed to do? Li Chengkane was also amazed. He felt that his daughter's idea was good. As long as Miaoling was married to Qin Wangye, she had many opportunities to provoke Bailey Hongzhuang and cause strife between her and Bewitching. This trick, which would work on any other man, was now directly defeated. Before it had even begun, Bewitching had refused directly. Bewitching is too domineering, Little Black said excitedly. This is good, I like it. Little White was also happy. For this kind of trick, only such a face-slapping method worked. Baisher was not uncomfortable anymore. It was laying in the arms of Bailey Hongzhuang. This abominable woman had lost her face without it needing to even move. Wang Ye, this is your honor, how can you say that? Li Yue said. After all, she was the daughter of the Prime Minister, but Bewitching did not give her any face at all. I have already said too much. If Miss Li can't handle it, then feel free to get away from this Wang Ye. Bewitching lazily picked a grape and placed it in his mouth as he began observing the rest of the banquet, no longer paying attention to Li Yue. Li Yue's eyes were filled with anger. In the past she did not see Bewitching being this indifferent. Was Bailey Hongzhuang really so charming? After Bewitching and Bailey Hongzhuang got together, they refused the temptation of others. With a slight turn, Li Yue could not help but glance at Bailey Hongzhuang. The lips of Bailey Hongzhuang were curled into a sneer, ridiculing Li Yue and her way of trying to provoke her. It is doomed to fail. Bailey Hongzhuang, don't be too proud. Li Yue said coldly. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly at the moment, the smile the same as always. Li Yue, you care so much about me. Don't you worry, when the crown prince comes, I will also suggest this to him. Listening to the words of Bailey Hongzhuang, Li Yue's face turned ugly and she suddenly felt a bad premonition. Was Bailey Hongzhuang going to use the same trick? As soon as she thought of this, Li Yue's heart clenched. His Royal Highness had never shown her any affection, so how could she give such an enchanting woman as Miaoling to his Royal Highness? Bailey Hongzhuang, don't even think of that, it is impossible. Li Yuyue growled. Bailey Hongzhuang shrugged indifferently, it didn't matter if she did it or not. Seeing the behavior of Bailey Hongzhuang, Li Yuyue's heart was full of doubts. No matter what, she couldn't let Bailey Hongzhuang use the same trick to avenge her. Li Yuyue immediately turned around in an attempt to get Miaoling to leave. She had to have Miaoling away from the palace before the crown prince arrived. However, just at that moment a palace eunuch's voice sounded. The emperor is arriving. The queen is arriving. The crown prince is arriving. The sharp voice made Li Yuyue pause her steps. Her heart could not help but feel a sense of panic, especially when everyone stood up to bow respectfully to the emperor and the others. The emperor, the empress, and the crown prince sat on the main platform right in front of all the people. The emperor and the empress sat in the center, the crown prince was seated slightly to the side. We have seen the emperor, the empress and his royal highness. Everyone respectfully called out. Xianyuan Etienne had a warm smile on his face, but the aura he exuded was putting everyone in the hall under pressure. Today we are gathered at a celebration banquet to celebrate the crown prince, Chen Wangye, and Chen Wangfei. The Qing dynasty has such good fortune. Xianyuan Yutian's gaze could not help but fall on Dibei Chen. After seeing him again half a year later, he was shocked. Even though the appearance of Dibei Chen had not changed much compared to the past, the sparkle in his eyes were completely different. The confidence and aura that was surrounding him was one that only peerless geniuses could possess. Now when he saw Dibei Chen again, he could not help but feel a bit of awe in his heart. Listening to Xianyuan Yutian, the hearts of the officials were somewhat doubtful. They had thought that this celebration was purely for the sake of His Royal Highness. How could he bring Chen Wangye and Chen Wangfei into it? Although Chen Wangye and Chen Wangfei were now students of the college, their status in the imperial city was not good. One was the waste of the general's household, the other was an abandoned Wangye who was rumored to be an illegitimate child. Why did the emperor suddenly change his attitude today? It is not only Xianyuan Yutian but also the crown prince who could not help but look at Dibei Chen. In fact, today's banquet was held exclusively for Dibei Chen, and Dibei Chen was the real main character. Li Yuyue's eyes landed on Xianyuan Huan's body and the black eyes were filled with love. She had been admiring Xianyuan Huan for a long time, and now she had become the future crown princess, but she had been separated from Xianyuan Huan for such a long time while he had been at the college. Today she saw Xianyuan Huan again, and her heart could not help but beat rapidly. After exchanging a look with Jiang Jinying, Xianyuan Huan slowly walked from the podium where they were seated towards the front of Bailey Hongzhuang and Dibei Chen. Li Yuyue saw Xianyuan Huan's approach, and only thought that perhaps he had seen her before when he arrived. Her heart was beating even more rapidly and her eyes were filled with love and hope. She would never have thought that Xianyuan Huan would not look at her at all, and instead looked directly at Dibei Chen. Chen Wangye. Dibei Chen's eyebrow rose slightly, and he seemed lazy and comfortable as he looked at Xianyuan Huan in front of him. Since Xianyuan Huan had an important position, everyone were carefully noticing his actions. However, when they saw that Xianyuan Huan was standing in front of Dibei Chen, but Dibei Chen was still sitting and not had any intention of getting up, their faces changed. Chen Wangye is too bold, His Royal Highness has come to him in person, how can he not rise? Even if there is a relationship of students between them when they are at Sanglan College, this is not the college but the royal court, he has to follow the normal etiquette. Xianyuan Jing had a hint of coldness in his eyes as he said, Dibei Chen is really looking for death. This Xianyuan Jing was the one who, together with Xianyuan Huan had pushed Dibei Chen down from the third floor, and he ended up hanging in the air. Because of that incident he lost his face. For a while he dared not even appear in sight of anyone. Because of this incident he hated Dibei Chen more and more. Do you need something, Your Royal Highness? Dibei Chen did not have a good impression of Xianyuan Huan. The humiliation he had received in Fengbua country was mostly from him. How dare you have such an attitude towards His Royal Highness, do you not want to live? Li Yuyue spoke up, the crown prince was to be the monarch in the future. An illegitimate child dared to slight the crown prince like this, it was simply looking for death. Xianyuan Huan was currently thinking about how to apologize to Di Beichen when Li Yue's sudden words scared him. He carefully observed Di Beichen, and upon seeing that he was not angry because of it, Xianyuan Huan coldly told Li Yue, "Miss Li, this matter has nothing to do with you. Your Royal Highness, Chen Wangye's attitude is a crime, he should be dragged out and beaten with 50 blows." Li Yue's voice was unable to hide the eagerness within. The previous episode had made her very unhappy, and now that Di Beichen was acting so arrogantly, she wanted to take the opportunity to beat him. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curved upwards. It seemed that Xianyuan Huan had already known the origin of Di Beichen. Now he was here to ask for forgiveness. Li Yue's obstruction at this time was tantamount to finding trouble for him. "Your Royal Highness, Crown Prince, she said I should be beaten with 50 blows." Di Beichen's smile was easy as he ridiculed Li Yue and repeated what she had said. "What I said is already light. You are making such a big act of rebellion." Li Yue stood up, her eyes once again a little smug, who let Di Beichen refuse to toast, only to be forced to drink as punishment. She was going to make Di Beichen regret it. Xianyuan Huan could not help but swear, this Li Yue was really an idiot. Xianyuan Huan was doing his best to try and please Di Beichen, but all Li Yue was doing was keeping on talking about punishing him. Slap! The crisp slap landed on Li Yue's face. His face was full of disgust as Xianyuan Huan shouted, "I told you to shut up. Did you not hear it?" Everyone present had their jaws dropping in shock. It was simply too strange a response from the Crown Prince. What Li Yue said was not bad, but His Royal Highness actually slapped her face in front of everyone. What happened to His Royal Highness? Why is he so polite to Chen Wangye? I don't know, it is really puzzling that he will beat the future Crown Princess for the sake of Chen Wangye. Li Yue was beaten by this slap. A burning pain came from her cheek. She could not believe what was happening in front of her eyes. An unspeakable sense of shame began spreading in Li Yue's heart. First she was scorned by Di Beichen, and now she was slapped in the face by His Royal Highness. She had become the object of ridicule. Li Chengqian's face was difficult to look at. He could not understand what Li Yue had done to provoke the Crown Prince's anger. "Your Highness, how can you do this to me?" Li Yue's eyes were red and filled with tears. However, Li Yue had been hit on the face just before, and now that she was speaking, the veil which she had been wearing quietly fell to the floor. Wow! After seeing the true face of Li Yue, everyone were in a daze, their eyes filled with incredulity. They saw that Li Yue's white face was covered in dense freckles. The original beauty had been covered, and it was not only because of the mark after the slap. Where was the most beautiful girl in the city? It was simply an ugly woman with freckles. I heard that Miss Li had a lot of freckles on her face, but I did not think it would be very serious. Now that I have seen it, it is indeed very ugly. How can someone look like this and be our crown princess? What if she is seen by the other countries? They will think we have no beautiful women. No wonder Miss Li has always worn a veil since then. This kind of face is really unappetizing. The eyes of everyone fell on Li Yue's body. Since way back everyone had been curious about Li Yue's face, but now that they had seen it they felt shocked. Li Yue had not noticed that her veil had fallen before she heard the people talk around her. Her expression was suddenly filled with embarrassment, her cheeks became red and it was difficult to endure the shame. Xianyuan Huan was also stunned. Even though he had suspected that the problem with Li Yue's face was serious, he had not thought it would be this serious. Having such a face, he was afraid it was impossible to even eat rice. How was he supposed to accept it? Li Yue quickly picked up her veil and put it on her face. Facing the eyes of everyone she wanted to find a place to sneak into. So Miss Li turned out to look like this, she really can't be the crown princess. Jiang Jinying said after a moment of surprise. That is true, Xianyuan Yutian was sullen as he nodded his head and his gaze was stern when he glanced at Li Qingqian. Li Qingqian's face changed when he felt the anger of Xianyuan Yutian. In order to avoid his daughter being abandoned as a crown princess, he had always concealed the matter while looking for a cure. He never thought that today it would be completely exposed, and he was worried that the emperor would not easily spare him. Li Yuyue quickly returned to her original seat together with Miolin, and her head was lowered, but she could still feel that everyone's gaze was still focused on her. Xianyuan Huan did not care where Li Yuyue went, and turned back to Bewitching. I want to apologize to you for what I did before. Next, Xianyuan Huan bowed to the emperor. His attitude was completely sincere. I was stupid before, I was truly ignorant. I humiliated you, but I hope that you can forgive me. When everyone saw that Xianyuan Huan was sincerely apologizing to Bewitching, they looked as if they had seen a ghost. It was unbelievable. Xianyuan Huan was the crown prince, how could he apologize to Bewitching? Cough. Xianyuan Jing was directly choking on his tea, his eyes widened. What was happening today? Was the sun rising from the west? While everyone were horrified, they all could not help but look at the emperor and the empress sitting above. However, both of them were indifferent. Obviously they approved of the actions of Xianyuan Huan. It was indeed a ghost. Bewitching looked indifferently at Xianyuan Huan. He never spoke, but in the silence Xianyuan Huan's forehead was oozing cold sweat. If you feel that everything I have done can't be forgiven, then just kill me. I hope that you can forgive my mother and father, they were also forced and were helpless. Bailey Hongzhuang was surprised and her eyes had a strange color. At this point she thought that at least Xianyuan Huan was still somewhat manly. When the voice of Xianyuan Huan fell, the entire hall was silent. Everyone opened their mouths, and one could hear a needle drop to the floor. Anyone who saw this could understand the seriousness of the situation. If there was no reason, Xianyuan Huan would never do this. When thinking about it carefully, everyone understood that Bewitching was not the illegitimate son of the emperor. Otherwise Xuanhuan Yuan had no reason to be lowering himself like this. As a result, the identity of Bewitching could only be terrible. Bailey Haoshuan's eyes widened and the situation changed so fast that he could not accept it at all. It was hard to understand, is the identity of Bewitching even more noble than the crown prince? Then, what about Bailey Hongzhuang, the wife of Bewitching? Bewitching looked at Xianyuan Huan for a long time. Xianyuan Huan's whole body was feeling powerless, and then he finally said, "What you did to me, I do not care, but I can't forgive you for what you did to my lady." Xianyuan Huan's childish actions, he had never really taken them to heart. If he wanted to resist, Xianyuan Huan would not know how many different ways he could have died. The reason he was enduring these humiliations was to let those people relax their vigilance. Towards Xianyuan Yutian he also has no feeling. After all, this was not the decision a monarch of a small dynasty could control. He came back this time, not to avenge himself, but to let his lady let go of her bad breath. For more than a decade, Bailey Hongzhuang had been sad, and he was extremely distressed. Nowadays, as Bailey Hongzhuang's man, he naturally wanted to give her the best. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the excellent man that was in front of her, and she could not help but feel moved deep in her heart. He was so thoughtful, and a different kind of talent. He had especially returned to the Fengbua country for the sake of getting her justice. All along she thought that Bewitching had returned to Fengbua to cleanse the humiliation he had suffered here, but now it seemed that she was wrong. In the heart of Bewitching he had never looked at Xianyuan Huan's previous humiliation of him, he just ignored the humiliation he had suffered in Fengbua. Xianyuan Huan was shocked. He had thought that Bewitching would not let him go, he had never expected that he would say such a thing. Looking across the table, he saw the moving and affectionate feelings in the eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang. He suddenly understood why Bailey Hongzhuang had picked Bewitching between the two of them without hesitation. You have to know that at first, Bailey Hongzhuang did not know the identity of Bewitching. Bewitching was just a disabled Wang Ye who had nothing at all, while Shen Yuanhuan was a high-ranked prince. At this point, he could not compare to Bewitching, so the only woman who had taken root in his heart had become Bewitching's. In that instant, everyone's eyes were condensed on Bailey Hongzhuang. Even if the emperor, the empress and the crown prince did not say it, they already understood that Bewitching was not a simple figure. Obviously Bewitching was here to help Bailey Hongzhuang. Li Yuyue was pale like paper. At this moment she finally understood why His Royal Highness had just taken that attitude towards her. The identity of Bewitching is above the crown prince. How can this be? An incredible feeling spread in her heart. At that time the disabled prince that was ridiculed by everyone had now turned to such high. She and her father had together framed, but also pushed Bailey Hongzhuang to such a high position. The most important thing was that the Wang Ye was so fond of Bailey Hongzhuang. First he had threatened and said that he only wanted Bailey Hongyuan, now he had returned to the Fengbao country just to make her get rid of her bad breath. What kind of doting was this? How awkward! Li Yuyue's hands in her sleeves were clenched into fists, the nails were deeply embedded in the palm of her hand, drawing blood. All that Bailey Hongzhuang has now was all contributed by her. She wanted to let the Bailey Hongzhuang fall into the dust, let everyone trample upon her. Never would she have thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was now a pearl that shone brightly. Li Chengqian's face was also extremely ugly. This was a huge unbelievable contrast. The chicken became a phoenix. This rare phenomenon actually appeared in front of him. Bailey Zhentao stood up in shock, his face was filled with nothing but shock. He had already regretted it very much. Now that he saw Bailey Hongzhuang and Bewitching he simply regretted it so much that he did not even know what to say. He was a real idiot. He could not imagine that if he always treated Bailey Hongzhuang well, the current glory would belong to the general estate. With the existence of a son-in-law like Bewitching, even if he wanted the entire country of Fengbao, was that really difficult? However, everything that should have belonged to him had been ruined by his own hands. Bailey Hongzhuang was also stunned at this moment, and there was only one idea in his mind: how was it possible? You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.